What does a marriage and selling a car has in common? Actually, more than you think. Would you propose on a first date? While I'm not judging, but there is something wrong about engaging in such an important relationship the first time you see someone. To make that decision, you have to get to know that someone a bit better. You first date, then you go on a trip together, then maybe you move in. Depends on the culture, but you get the point. Before you arrive at the destination of hopefully happy marriage, you make a series of decisions, one after another, in a sequence where every next decision is more complex and requires you to get to know the person more. Surprisingly, same principles apply to building a well-working sales funnel. Today, I'm revealing how a properly structured sales funnel doesn't just organize your sales process, it mathematically increases your chances of closing deals at every stage. By the end of this video, you will understand exactly how to build a sales funnel that converts more prospects into customers. Welcome to my channel. My name is Jeff Tiley and I'm CRM consultant. I talk about automation and business technology. Make sure to subscribe to my channel and hit that like button if you like what I'm doing. Let's start with basics. A sales funnel is essentially the journey a prospect takes from first discovering your business to becoming a paying customer. The classic model for this is AIDA. Awareness, interest, desire, and action. At awareness stage, let's draw it like this. At awareness stage, people simply learn that your product exists. Then some of those people develop interest in what you offer. A portion of those interested prospects develop a desire to own your product. Finally, a subset of those take action and make a purchase. Oh, but before we continue, a big shout out to sponsor of today's video, my company, Monthly. We help companies to implement CRM systems where you can track your sales team performance and ultimately build your sales funnel. You know the game. Link to my company website in the description below. Back to video. We call a funnel because of its shape. If we visualize this process, it starts wide at the top with many prospects and narrows as they progress through each stage of decision making. I had a very illustrative case around 5 years ago in Eastern European driving school. Together with their marketing director at the time, we've implemented a sales funnel and introduced tracking of the funnel via CRM, which increased their sales by 254%, which is 3.5 times. While this is an extremely successful case and normally you shouldn't expect such result, it's an illustration that well-organized and thought-out sales process could make a huge difference. But does that work for any business? If you are a solo practitioner with limited capacity, let's say a lawyer or consultant who can only handle so many clients, you might intuitively guide prospects through a buying process without a formal tracking. But if you're running a company that wants to scale with multiple salespeople and complex products, a structured sales funnel could be very helpful. But if and when you need to manage and forecast your sales process, you absolutely need a sales funnel. The funnel's power isn't just in visualizing your sales process. It's a way to systemize your sales process, gain visibility into your potential business that you may close, and even win deals that you wouldn't have won if you didn't have that visibility. They would otherwise have fallen through the crack. Now, let's talk about how funnels work. There are 4 critical elements you need to track for every opportunity to build a funnel that makes sense: amount, closing date, status, and probability. We will talk about later in this video. Why probability? Glad you asked. It lets you forecast your business. As prospects move through your funnel, their likelihood of purchasing increases. Let me explain how this works. At each stage, fewer prospects move forward, which is exactly why we call it a funnel. Imagine starting with 1,000 people who become aware of your business. This is your awareness stage, the widest part of your funnel. These are folks who just discovered you exist through your marketing, social media, or word of mouth. From those 1,000 people, perhaps only 200 of them show genuine interest by engaging further. Maybe then they visit website, download a resource, or follow your social media accounts. We've now moved to the interest stage and our funnel has naturally narrowed. Going deeper, maybe say 150 of those interested prospects develop a real desire for your solution. They request specific information, ask for a demo, or inquire about pricing. At this desire stage, we've narrowed again. Finally, about 100 people actually take action and become customers. The funnel has reached its narrowest point. This natural progression is why we can assign probability percentages to each stage. If historically 10% of people at the awareness stage eventually purchase, that's where the 10% probability comes from. As they move deeper through your funnel, demonstrating higher commitment, the probability increases. 10% at the awareness stage, 40% at interest stage, 65% probability at desire stage, and basically here it's 100%. The power of this approach is it transforms your sales process from gut feeling to mathematical certainty. With 1,000 new prospects entering your awareness stage each month and an average sale value of $400, you can reliably forecast around 40,000 in new business. Let me show you how it works. Let's say we got 1,000 people entering funnel every month. Multiply that by 10% conversion rate, which we got here, and then multiply it by, let's say, average deal value that we got in our business by $400, we end up with $40,000 of sales forecast. By understanding exactly how many people move through each stage of the funnel, you gain the clarity to make strategic decisions about where to focus your improvement efforts for maximum impact. But creating such funnel is not an easy task. It's not just sitting down at the desk and imagining sales process, implementing it, and it just works. It's an iterative, meticulous process that requires time and, most importantly, patience, which is a great time to talk about building sales funnels. To build the sales funnel, you have to split your sales process into stages. Every stage should increase probability of a sale. Let me explain. Remember my example in the beginning of this video where I've mentioned how many people progress through each theoretical stage of AIDA model. Now, AIDA is theory. Let's take an example that is closer to real life. Now, this is a great time to make one disclaimer. In our digital age, marketing and sales are merging. And while these principles apply to both marketing and sales, I'm covering sales process. To make things simple, sales process starts when a prospect reaches out to your company. Anything before that, in theory, should be marketing process. But again, borders between those are very subtle and sometimes hard to distinguish. Back to example. Let's assume you are a car dealer and you sell nice new Toyota cars. A customer walks into your showroom, you greet him and engage in conversation. A few minutes into conversation and he expresses interest in buying new Toyota RAV4. What happens next? You get his credentials like name, phone number, and maybe an email to send an offer later. Let's take a look how this would look like if it were expressed on a funnel. Now, first dealership, let's call it a visit. Next, you collect his contact details. Let's call it express interest since he leaves contacts only when he is interested. Next, you take him to test drive. Let's call it test drive. Finally, customer applies for a leasing. Here we go. You see, we've built 4 stages, each representing certain point of decision making. First, customer had to make the decision to visit dealership. Then he made a decision to engage in the conversation with you and then exchanged contact details and then applied for a leasing. You've been increasing complexity of his decision with every next step. But what also was happening, probability of him buying a vehicle has grown. It was growing because out of 100 visitors here at the top of the funnel, maybe 80 would engage in conversation. Out of 80 who expressed interest, maybe 50 would go for a test ride. And finally, out of those 50, maybe 25 would apply for a leasing. With every next stage, you've been refining the group of people to make narrower and narrower based on the history. You know that probability that person will buy a car at the stage of leasing inquiry is much higher than during the visit stage. As I already told, marketing and sales are merging, and it's best visible in processes where you sell to businesses versus to individuals. The main difference between B2B and B2C funnels is where marketing ends and sales begin. In B2C, prospects might remain in marketing stages longer, viewing ads, downloading content, visiting your site multiple times before they are ready for engagement, like visiting dealership, for example. In B2B, especially with complex products, personal involvement often comes earlier in a process. One thing which you have to keep in mind is that your funnel is a living strategy, not something you design once in a boardroom. And the most successful funnels are refined through constant testing and iteration. What works brilliantly for one business might fail for another, even in the same industry. Automation can play a key role at each stage of your funnel. You can automate customer interactions with targeted messaging. You can create dashboards that highlight key metrics for decision making. You can even streamline workflows like proposal generations and approvals. And for some businesses, you can implement a self-service portals that can replace part of traditional sales process. But remember, all of this must be baked by accurate probability tracking. The mathematical advantage of a well-designed funnel is that each stage should increase probability of closing the deal, which is a great time to talk about one common mistake people are making when building a sales funnel. The most common issue I see is what I call a boa constrictor problem, a stage where deals get stuck. Let me draw it. I'm not a good drawer, so I would have to apologize for this being a bit ugly. Now, we had a client who had about 60% of their deals stuck in the negotiation stage. When we investigated, we discovered that half of these were actually lost opportunities that salespeople simply don't close out for different reasons. Now, at this point, I should probably explain you what the boa constrictor actually means. So it means that a lot of deals are stuck on one stage. This is a snake that ate an elephant, which is from Saint-Exupéry fairy tale for kids. So we got several stages. Let's assume these all are sales stages. This is awareness, and this is negotiation. And I don't know, this is, for example, contract, and here we are winning the business. So the boa constrictor means that a lot of business is getting stuck here. So in that case, which I was telling about, a lot of sales reps were not closing their deals due to many reasons. Some didn't want to hurt their close ratios, some just didn't care, and their managers didn't enforce CRM usage. But this false picture prevented the company from seeing the real conversion rates, and as a result, prevented them from modifying sales stage. This happens when management of the company is creating fantasy stages that don't match reality. Some companies design elaborate funnels in boardrooms that have nothing to do with how customers actually buy. For example, their CRM might ask salespeople to schedule a product demo when the customer has already called saying, "Hey, I want to buy now, where do I pay?" If you are from Salesforce sales team, I'm talking about you guys. As a result, deals get stuck at one sales stage. It could be fixed if sales stages are designed using formula of every next stage should increase probability of a sale, which I have already explained, and honestly, I will be reading this as a mantra for the rest of this video. Oh, and I should mention this. Some companies don't have CRM. While you could build your sales funnel without a CRM, I strongly recommend using one. This is by far the easiest mistake to fix. CRM system allows you to track all your opportunities in one place and track their status and store history of how they progressed, which would help you later calculate your best stages and probabilities on each stage. Let's say you are a small business and would like to start building up your sales funnel. Well, I can give away a simple and effective formula. Don't overcomplicate things. Find simple CRM software and start by tracking just 4 fields. First, deal amount, how much opportunity is worth. Second, expected closing date, when you anticipate the decision to be made by the customer. Third, status, where the prospect is in your sales pipeline, just like on this image. Hopefully not like this image. Anyway, number 4, probability, the likelihood of closing at each stage. Begin with simple reporting on these elements and iterate based on what you learn. Be prepared for some management challenges. Salespeople often resist change, especially when it brings more transparency to their work. Make it clear that the funnel is a tool to help them succeed, not just monitor their activity. To wrap this up, remember that a well-designed sales funnel is your mathematical advantage in business. Each stage should increase your probability of closing. The key that transforms businesses is understanding that a well-converting sales funnel increases the chance of a sale with every next step. It's not just a visual representation. It's a strategy that, when properly executed, acts as a multiplier for your sales funnel. Don't expect perfection immediately. Your funnel will evolve as you gather data and learn what works for your specific company. Start simple, measure results, and continuously refine your approach. If you got questions, let me know in the comments down below. I'll gladly answer all of them. Make sure to subscribe to my channel and hit that like button to the video if you like what I'm doing. On that note, thanks for watching and see you next time. Peace.